Good morning, good afternoon, my listeners. This is Wiktor Doctor from Good Morning BSS World podcast, and today we have another show for you, together with my guest, who is Craig Prince from Quertum. Hi, Craig.
Good morning, Victor. How are you?
Very well, very well. How are things in London, in UK?
Yes, they're good. Obviously, COVID is a challenge, but business-wise, things are moving along quite nicely. There are some challenges, but it's good. Weather is fantastic. That's a good thing.
Good. I have such an experience that it's always good to start talk about the weather. So if you already say that the weather is fantastic, then great. Yeah. I can tell you that in Poland, where I am based today, it is absolutely the same. So it's a nice end of February when we have an opportunity for this chat. But we are not going to talk about weather. We are not going to talk about COVID. We are going to talk about your business activity, which you are involved, because you are one of the fathers of a company named Choisto, Quertum, or rather a combination of those two businesses. And my first question to you is, what is Quertum? What is Choisto? How this everything started?
Okay, so that's a good question, and thank you for inviting me here today, Victor. Really happy to talk to you. So myself and my business partner, we used to work for a very large communications company based in the Nordics. I used to run the UK, and my business partner was on the main board as head of sales for the whole of the company in 7 or 8 countries around Europe. So the 4 Nordics, UK, we had a big facility at the time in Poznan, in Poland, and we also had a big facility in France as well. So we worked there together from 2008 through to end of 2011, 3 years. I left, wanted to become an entrepreneur and wanted to do my own thing rather than having the big salary and the big corporate accounts and the nice life. Maybe crazy move, but it was a good move. 2 years later, my business partner, a guy called Tommy Hannanen, who's based in Helsinki, he left also. He contacted me. He had this little product called Choisto. At the time, it was actually called DD Colt, which is a terrible name. And he said to me, it's me, I got 3 guys. We want to do something with you. We want to open up in the UK. We want to take Choisto, which is a electronic document management and digital archive solution, choisto.com, if anybody's interested. And we want to take this to the market and really start to grow it. We're a very small business at the moment, 2 or 3 customers, a couple of €100,000 turnover, and we would like to take it forward, and we would like you to help us. And I said, yeah, great idea. So end of 2013, beginning of 2014, we set up Choisto in the UK. We have since grown the business from the 4 or 5 of us to maybe 45 or 50 people. We now have 10 or 15 customers in the UK. We're still quite big in the Nordics. We have customers in Romania and France and Italy. So we've done a really good job expanding the business. And then 2 really interesting things happened. 2017, end of 2017, GDPR, the European directive around compliance of document and data management, was released. And everything we do at Choisto is compliant. Compliance is at the heart of everything we do. So we are... we're not a SharePoint, so if you just want to store some files, that's fine, use SharePoint. But if you need something that is very compliant, very robust with audits around ISOs and GDPR and things like this about your document and digital management, then Choisto is a very good solution. So GDPR really kind of opened up a lot of opportunity for us. Lots of our customers and new customers were realizing the way they were managing their data and their documents wasn't particularly compliant with GDPR, and applying Choisto as a solution helps them with that compliance, which is a big step forward for us. And then during 2018, we was actually approached by one of our main customers to pitch for a professional services team that was based in Warsaw. So 2018, we pitched for that opportunity, and we won that opportunity. So late 2018, our large company outsourced their offshore professional services team around customer communications and digital document management and things like that were based in Warsaw. They had a head office in Warsaw, but a smallish team of 15, 16 guys working mainly remotely around Poland. And we outsourced that. And then that's when we came up with the name Quertum to do that project. And we joined Choisto and Quertum to make Choisto Quertum. So we've been established in Poland for this is our third year now. It's going really well. We have a great manager, a guy called Maciek Majewski. Sorry, get his name right. He's our general manager. He used to be the team leader of the team before. He does a great job. We've grown the team by maybe 100% in the last couple of years. We don't have one customer anymore. We have several customers. And we have set up become a boutique professional services consultancy company based in Warsaw, mainly managing outsource opportunities or nearshore outsource opportunities from UK or Nordic companies. But we also are looking to expand in the Polish market and Eastern European market from Warsaw as well.
Okay, so it's nearly a decade already, if I calculated it well, and the presence is in Nordics, in UK, and now Poland. So before Poznań, now Warsaw. It looks like you like Poland.
Yes, I must say. When I was at the previous company, 2008, 9, 10, 11, I traveled to our Poznań facility 3 or 4 times. I liked it. It was a great place to go. But having been in business in Poland for the last nearly 3 years and travel, well, when COVID allows, travel at least once, twice a month across to Warsaw, I must say, falling in love with the city. The people are fantastic. It's a great, vibrant city. The amount of investment and opportunities and the entrepreneurial spirit in the city is excellent. And it's turned out to be both a really good outsource opportunity for us, but also a very good business opportunity for us to have Poland as our hub, our center of excellence, and to expand from there.
Okay, let's talk about some kind of a market awareness of this being compliance. You mentioned 2 critical things like GDPR and ISO. Those are the things. ISO is a little bit longer when it comes to various regulations, but GDPR is still quite fresh on the market. But my question is, what are your feelings if companies do understand actually the power of the GDPR and the necessity of being compliant with this? What's your thought on that?
Well, I think a lot of companies are waking up. So if you Google GDPR.eu, I think it is, there's a whole list on there. I think over 200 companies have already been audited and fined by GDPR. The largest fine awarded was 187 million euros to AIG, which is the parent company for British Airways. They appealed that, and it got moved down to about 45 million euros, but still a huge number. So, and there's been a few other large fines around the multi-million euro level, 10, 20 million euros, and then lots of fines around the 200, 300, 400, 500,000 level. So GDPR, the EU are taking the way that we manage people's data and content very, very seriously. And I think at the beginning, 2017, 18, 19, lots of companies paid a little bit of lip service to that. They didn't take it too seriously, but they now see that the EU have got teeth and they're actually policing this. And I think there's 56 cases at the moment which are under audit and under suspicion. So there's going to be, it's only growing and it's only going to get tougher. And I think a lot of big companies are now sitting up and listening and are really starting to think how they manage their content, their data, their customers' information. And that's why one of the main reasons why we've seen great growth, because Choisto fits in there very nicely. And on the professional services side, with Quertum supporting Choisto and other platforms, we can help people with those kind of compliance and technical and communication challenges.
So let's focus on that. How does it work? Because being compliant may mean everything. Yeah. So what exactly you do to support companies to be compliant with that?
Well, there are if you look on the GDPR charter, there are what they call 8 golden rules. So there are 8 things that every company must do, and so you must be able to, if somebody phones up and says, I don't want you to keep my data, you've got to be able to delete it. If somebody phones up and says, I want every piece of data you've had on me for the last 10 years, if you're an employee or something, you must be able to provide it in a timely way. And it's usually 28 days. So if you have a company that hasn't got that in a really efficient central place, the HR department have some information, the finance department have another set of information, the sales team have another set of information. It's really difficult for companies to manage that data in a compliant way. So what Choisto does is lays a blanket over everything, stops them being a silo, gives them a central repository where it has really some very clever tools about high-speed ingestion, about the management of that document. So we can build in things like document lifecycle management. So if some files can only be kept for a year or 5 years or 7 years, we can automatically manage those. So there's lots of clever tools we have within Choisto as a central repository, not a siloed repository, that really helps with the compliance and the auditing of GDPR.
Okay, so it sounds like this is a kind of a service for the big companies or for those who are multi-volume clients or this kind of stuff. Who is a typical client or the company who might be interested in this kind of solutions?
Well, there's 2 things to say to that, really. So we are white label and we are multi-tenant. So we can be branded to our customers' own service. So we usually sell our product to service providers. So people that are managing lots of customers' data, lots of companies' data, and so big customer communication management type companies or service providers or IT integrators, people like that. So then they brand it themselves, and then they can be, I mean, our largest installation on one license has 210 customers of theirs on our platform. So it's usually, it helps a great deal. It fits very nicely in that sector. But as far as the GDPR is concerned, they're only really interested in companies that are 200 employees or higher. So this isn't an SME challenge at the moment. I mean, like all things, I'm sure it will filter down one day. But at the moment, it's kind of mid to larger size businesses, definitely.
Okay, so it looks like, if I understand it well, you've got some kind of a tool, which is being integrated in the environment of the client who is having their own clients, and this is supporting them on a day-to-day activities.
Absolutely. So, from a contact center managing claims and handling insurance problems, 400 people, 500 people in a contact center using the system every day. Because we're file agnostic as well, so we can upload videos or voice conversations or PDFs or anything, over 1,000 different types of file. So it lends itself to an environment where there's lots of data, lots of information coming in or being pushed out, and managing of that data or that information on behalf of those customers.
Okay, but for me it sounds like from one side complex and from the other complicated. How long does it take actually to add this functionality into the business of your clients?
Yeah, it's our CTO, guy called Yanni Partonen. He has a very he uses this saying an awful lot. The most simplest things are the most complex things can be the most simplest thing. The most relevant things can be the most simplest things. So it's really easy to deploy. It's not a big 6-month project. We don't need 10 project managers and IT support. We do it remotely. During these COVID times with no international travel, we've expanded nicely and we can do everything remotely. We have a trainer methodology. So we ask for a small team of the user, and we train them on over a couple of days, 2 or 3 days. That's all. The way the architecture has been built, it's really very simple to deploy, quite easy to configure and to brand, and it's really quite straightforward.
Okay, so maybe I will do one step back to the area when we were talking about the types of clients or about the awareness of this GDPR, because my understanding is that actually this GDPR is treated very seriously in Europe. Yeah, it was created here, and of course there are procedures how to be in line with all of the regulations and so on and so on. The rest of the world either does not have such regulations at all, or have some their unique solutions. Can you tell me if you experience such a fact that you an interest in this what you are doing? There are also companies from outside of European Union.
So absolutely. So you're correct in your assumption. So GDPR is very much a European centric directive. However, the rest of the world are looking at GDPR as the benchmark of what compliance around data should look like. Literally 3-4 months ago, Choisto in Canada announced that he was going to pretty much copy and paste GDPR for the Canadian market. If you look at Asia, you have some very mature areas like Hong Kong, Singapore. They have heavy compliance. I wouldn't say it's comparable with GDPR, but it's similar. But then you look at somewhere like China, or it's like the Wild West. So there's no compliance. So there you have a different conversation. And in fact, 2 years ago, we developed our platform into the blockchain. So we can now give people 100% irrefutable proof of originality and a to the second time and date stamp on every event or transaction within the archive. Now, that's getting a lot of traction in the Far East, because they don't really have a compliance issue over there. They have a counterfeiting and fraud and misinformation issue. So if you can prove things, then it becomes very powerful. So, and then places like the US is a really strange market. We've actually, in the middle of a pandemic last year, we opened up an office in the US last year. So we have a small team, and we're expanding in the US. That's literally state by state. So you have one big country, but 50 different individual countries. California, heavy on compliance. Texas, no compliance at all, really. So it's a really interesting market.
So it's quite strange, I would say, because we are now living in a digital, let's say, era. This digital management, to be honest, should be aware by anyone already. Yeah. We are living in this global village where everyone deals with everyone. So we need to respect the legal or other regulations of certain countries or regions or unions of the countries and so on and so on. And look here, what you mentioned in US, one state very compliant, the other completely not. Okay, I'd like to get your opinion on this, let's say, area of digital management, because this is a part where you are present at, but there are of course some other services which we can include in the digital management. How do you think this will develop within the next months and years? Should the companies start a process of being more aware of what can be digitalized, or rather it will just hit us like in a more easy way?
Yeah, no, I think again, a big change last year has been the pandemic. Whereas before, a large company might have had 500, 1,000 people working in an office. So they had all their files, they had everything stored in filing cabinets at the bottom of the corridors and things like that, or maybe in the basement or wherever. Now these guys are working 10, 20, 30 miles away from their office. They still need to access those files. They still need to have sight of those documents. They need to maybe work on case files in a legal case or a financial case. So the need for digital transformation and into a more digital way of managing things is absolutely in the zeitgeist, and it will only grow. I think so. 2019, there was 249 petabytes of data in that year, and that's 249 and then 29 zeros. So, and it doubles every 5 to 7 years. So whereas outbound communications, paper-based outbound communications is dropping, the amount of data, content, files, videos, all these things that need to be managed is growing exponentially. So we need to manage those in an appropriate way. And the only way to do it going forward is going to be doing it digitally. And then if you add on top of that, the sustainability question, why print something off, use ink, use electricity, put it in a folder, store it in a warehouse, and create that massive carbon footprint when you can just scan it and put it in the cloud? It doesn't make sense.
Do you think one day we will be out of paper?
The EU have got an ambition. It's not a directive or anything else like that, but they've got an ambition to be out of paper by 2050.
2050.
Yeah. 30 years.
30 years. So probably earlier we will be walking on Mars then.
But the good thing is we could be out of paper today if we wanted to be. The technology is there. But Choisto and Quertum are tiny parts of that. But the technology absolutely is to be out of paper today.
Okay.
So it's just a hearts and minds thing.
I have one such area which actually is interesting me a lot since a while, which is under the big brand of cybersecurity. So I do also understand that this what you are doing is some kind in that area as well. How, if you could explain or give me just a couple of sentences about that of course I do understand that you are adding your software or your solution into the environment of your client, but now everyone works remotely. Yeah. So this leaves us some kind of questions, how secure it is, and is it?
Not really, no. So if you have the case that we talked about a minute or two ago, if you had those 500, 1,000 people that working in the office that were buried behind many firewalls within their own environment, I mean, who's to say they couldn't be hacked? But it would be very, very difficult. If you have the same 500 people or 1,000 people working at home on a laptop on their own Wi-Fi, not maybe via VPN at best, that's not particularly secure. And that's really easy for there could be a huge amount of misuse, but it's easy to, so if somebody was minded, they could quite easily download a file on a USB on their laptop while they're working from home, and nobody would really know about it. And this is where somewhere like Choisto comes in, because it doesn't necessarily stop that rogue person doing that, but what it will do is give you, especially if you use the blockchain, it will give you the proof of who did it, and it will give you to the second of when they did it and how they did it. So it will give you the audit trail to help you stop doing that, or put in safety checks to stop people being rogue. So yeah, I mean, if some clever guy in Russia or in North Korea wants to hack you, they'll hack you. But the more we are working from home, which I think is going to be the new normal, that will become easier. But if you have a really secure central repository that has got you need to have the right authority to get access to it, then it makes it a whole lot more difficult, especially if it's underpinned by blockchain. Okay.
Let's come back to something what I also love to talk about is some kind of a view of the future. So now you have already 10 years behind you. You are developing in 3 regions. What are your plans or potential plans for the next decade?
Well, our big plan really is, and it's good news for hopefully for Progressio and our team in Poland. Our big plan in Poland is we see Poland and Eastern Europe as being the next big growth area. So we could easily see there's a fantastic book called 100 Years From Now, which I can't remember the author. I'll try and find out. And it basically plots the geopolitical landscape over the next 100 years. And the author believes that Poland will become the next big power in Europe. The demise of the UK because of Brexit, Germany because of the German problems, Poland and the surrounding area will become the next big power in Europe. And what I've seen in the last 3 years, having been there, it's a phenomenal place. It really is, and it's there is only great potential there. So us as a leadership team, we're looking at Poland to be our hub, to be our platform to grow from. So, as I said, since we outsourced the original team, 15, 16, we're now to nearly 31, 32. So we've doubled in 2 years. I think if it wasn't COVID, that would be even higher. I think by the end of this year, we would probably be nearer 40. And we would just continue that growth. We're starting to build a sales team. We're investing a lot of time and effort into our team in Poland and our service offering in that region, because we see it as a great area for growth.
You mentioned Eastern Europe. I believe that this is Eastern Europe, but covered by the European Union, or you are also open for such areas like Ukraine or Belarus, for example.
Well, maybe one day. Definitely Baltics and the sort of more westernized, so Romania, Czech, Hungary, etc., etc.
Okay, we are going to the end of our talk for today, but I have just one last question. In the group of the companies we were talking earlier on, of course, there were already some of them mentioned, but we are working very closely in Poland with the BPOs and GBS companies, so Global Business Services or the business process outsourcing companies. What do you think is some kind of a takeaway of our talk today? What they should know or be aware that such tools, solutions are existing and might support them in their day-to-day work?
So I think, as I said earlier, our main client base are BPO or outsourcing organizations, because they are dealing with dozens or if not hundreds of other companies. And at the moment, GDPR doesn't really apply to them too much. They have to be compliant, but they have to do best endeavors and things like that. But I've seen how compliance worked over the last 30 years, having worked in a very compliant area for areas for around critical data and critical documents for many years, and GDPR is coming. So if you're not compliant now, make sure you are. Tools like Choisto and the services and skills we have at Quertum can help you with that, and we would love to talk to you.
So the last but not least, how to find you? So how to find Quertum and to reach you if somebody would like to get more deeper information?
So our local office is under the brand of Quertum, so quertum.net. At the bottom of there, under team, we have our general manager and our sales director listed. So by all means, please get in contact. I'm always available, as you know, Wiktor. So if you want to share my details with anybody, please do so. But we're very happy to talk to anybody. The guys are waiting to be contacted.
So we add some links to your webpage or to your LinkedIn, or maybe not all, but and to your LinkedIn profile to the description of this podcast. So that should make people easier to find you. Anyway, Craig, thank you very much for this chat. I'm so happy actually that this kind of solutions are entering Eastern Europe and are becoming more available for the BPOs and shared services companies which are located in here, because yes, Central and Eastern Europe is a big I would say, worldwide hub of this kind of activities. Of course, we cannot compete with Asia and so on. They are still much bigger. But anyway, this is the part of the world where the BPOs and SSCs are becoming more and more popular. So with these kind of tools, they can be even more supportive to their final clients. And this GDPR, which you mentioned, probably this is more for BPOs rather than SSCs. But anyway, for those BPOs, this is absolutely a critical must-have to be compliant with.
Definitely, I agree. And Wiktor, thank you for the invite, and it's been great to talk to you today. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.